Thank you for allowing me to come and speak, Bishop. I really appreciate that. And I'm probably the oldest, maybe present, not a refugee, but immigrant to the United States and to California. I came here from Germany in 1953 with my parents as a 17-year-old. And it was very difficult to leave my friends behind. And now I'm going to read the rest of my story so that I don't mess up. I'm a member of the Church of Hope in Canyon Country, and we are very busy out there. But I grew up during World War II, lived in Berlin when the Russians invaded the city, and during the Berlin airlift. Those were difficult times. We didn't know where food was going to come from. The greatest blessing for our family was that my father returned home from serving in the German army in Croatia in July of 1945. One day he was a prisoner of war at a U.S. camp, and he was released almost immediately. So we counted our blessings, and we were thrilled when he came home. My parents and I immigrated from Germany to the United States in 1953, and we came straight to California. My sister came here alone in 1949 as a child. She was young. She's younger than I am. So, on an immigrant visa to spend a year with my aunt and uncle. She adapted well, attended junior high and high school in Van Nuys. After her first year here, my aunt wanted to adopt her. She felt it was not fair to send her back, since she would have a much better life here. My parents were shocked and not at all happy about losing a daughter. My mother spoke with our pastor in Germany, in Berlin, and he advised her not to agree to an adoption. A year later, my aunt offered to sponsor us so we could come here to have the family together. My parents agreed to apply for immigration visas. First, the applications were submitted, then the waiting for approval of the visas, which took a whole year, and it took another year before we actually were able to leave Germany. At that time, the U.S. issued only 1,000 visas per year for immigrants in Germany. And don't ask me why that happened, but that's the way the rules were at the time. That also resulted, when I became a citizen 10 years later, that there were only 10 people in my acceptance to as a citizen in the United States. We didn't have a big crowd like they have now. We lived in Berlin, so the first leg of our trip had to be by plane, since the western part of the city was isolated by the Russian zone. A train and an ocean crossing took us to Hoboken, New Jersey. A flight from New York to Burbank, with 2 stops, brought us to what was to be our new home in North Hollywood. And looking down from the airplane, I was totally shocked. I didn't believe that I would be coming to a flatland from a big city. My sister had been attending First Lutheran Church Missouri Synod in Van Nuys, where she was confirmed. So this was the place for us to attend. We were told that this was where Germans attended church. We met many nice people. Some were also post-World War II immigrants. We lived with my aunt and uncle for a couple of months and then moved to an apartment. It was not as nice as the home we left. My dad found a job at Hoffman TV, not the type of work he did in Germany, and my mother worked for 3 families doing housework. But we had enough money to pay for the apartment and have a fairly good living. I attended Valley Junior College at the time. In 1955, my father was diagnosed with ALS. This is when my when members of the church helped a lot with rides to doctors. He lost his first job. Eventually, he landed at Sears Roebuck in North Hollywood and worked there until a month before he died. Now it was time for me to find a job. I was still in junior college, but I had been studying mechanical engineering. My first job was an engineering drafting job in a small company in Pacoima, and several people who had come from Germany also worked there. After my dad died in 1958, my mother was hired at Sears, and we were able to move to a new apartment and had really a better life. The two of us were able to manage a one-bedroom apartment. Life was not easy in those first years, but we were blessed with good opportunities during difficult times. Thanks to my upstairs neighbor at our apartment house, I joined Emmanuel Lutheran Church after my mother died in 1969. We were told not to admit we were German. We found that we could not hide our accent, and that people had compassion everywhere we went. Thank you.
And now a reading from Hebrews 13 to accompany our story. Let mutual love continue. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing that, some have entertained angels without knowing it.
Ursula from Church of Hope in Canyon Country.